air in the interrogation room was thick and still, tasting faintly of stale coffee and fear. Detective Sergeant Lena Kincaid watched the man across the steel table, a heavy silhouette in the harsh overhead light. Deputy Mark Olsen, badge 402, a man who had sworn an oath to protect. Now, his oath was ash, and the only thing left was the grim reckoning. Olsen sat rigid, hands clasped tight, his knuckles white against the dark wood. 2 weeks ago, in the quiet tree-lined suburb of Crestwood Valley, a young man named Emmett Vance was found beaten and left for dead in an abandoned industrial park. It wasn't a random act of violence. The symbols carved into his skin and the venom in the crime scene spoke of pure, focused hate. Kincaid pushed a single photograph across the Tabola close-up of Emmett's bruised, defiant face butt. She didn't look at it. She watched Olsen's eyes. She had been tracking this ghost for 6 months. Small acts of intimidation, escalating vandalism, and cryptic threats targeting the town's most vulnerable. They had always been dead ends, whispers of a local group, shadows without substance, until the night Emmett was attacked. The evidence trail had been expertly wiped clean, a professional job too clean. It led not to some fringe fanatic, but to the very authority sworn to stop them. The system was bleeding itself out. Mark Kincaid's voice was calm, almost conversational, yet it carried the weight of a stone dropping into a deep well. We know about the truck. The custom mud tires. We found the tread pattern 2 blocks from the scene, then matched it to the service records at the Crestwood Station garage. Yours. Olsen didn't move. He simply stared at the photograph, his jaw working a silent, terrible refusal. His uniform, still crisp, seemed to mock the ruin of the man inside. The narrative of this tragedy wasn't just about the brutality inflicted on Emmett Vance. It was about the moral collapse of an individual given too much power in the betrayal of public trust. Olsen wasn't the leader of the group. Take note that he was the access point, the shield. The group, calling themselves the Vindicator 6, operated in the dark, and Olsen provided the cover. The inside track and the crucial intelligence patrol routes shift changes, blind spots. He chose silence over justice. The silence in the room stretched, a taut wire of tension. Kincaid leaned forward, her elbows on the table, her posture one of absolute, unyielding control. The others, she continued, pressing down on the names like physical weights. Trevor, Dean, Alex. We have them. They're talking, Mark. They know you gave them the shift schedules. They know you stole the first 2 patrol cars that night with a fake 911 call about a drunk driver on Route 12. They told us everything you did to make sure the road was clear. She paused, letting the magnitude of his complicity settle. Olsen finally swallowed hard, the sound loud in the sterile room. A single bead of sweat traced a path down his temple. Guilt is a silent scream that eventually breaks the glass. It wasn't supposed to go that far. Olsen choked out, his voice hoarse, a ragged whisper of denial. The plan was just to scare him, make him leave town. Kincaid's expression didn't change, a mask of professional, grim assessment. But it did go that far, Mark, because you chose to stand back. You chose to be a part of a destructive hate, not to stand against it. When you saw them surrounding him, the pipes, the boots, the hate, Narazu could have called it in. You could have saved that boy's life. You stood there, badge 402, and watched. The power imbalance was overwhelming. A sworn officer aiding and abetting a calculated act of terror. The script of the narrative had shifted dramatically. It was no longer about the attackers, but about the man who failed to be the hero he swore to be. The psychological weight of this failure was crushing Olsen. He had tried to rationalize it as small favor for old friends. A belief that their values needed defending, but the sight of Emmett Vance's fractured body had broken through his moral barriers. The human cost of his mistake was now undeniable. He trembled, a barely perceptible tremor starting in his hands and moving up his forearms. I told him no violence, he stammered, his eyes I only wanted to protect the town's values. It got out of hand. I swear, I didn't touch him. Kincaid leaned back, the leather of her chair creaking slightly, the sound of the official record being written. You protected nothing, Mark. You corrupted the law. You violated the fundamental principle of your service. Your friends are not your moral compass. De la? Is. And the law is not selective. She brought her tone down, making it intensely personal, reaching for the core of his humanity. Vance is fighting for his life right now. Do you know what his mother told us? She said he moved here because he felt safe, because he trusted the police. She trusted you. Badge 400, those that trust is now gone. Forever. The shame hit him like a physical blow. The moral pressure was absolute. It wasn't about conviction anymore. It was about redemption. A desperate, final chance to do one thing right. Olsen lifted his head, finally meeting her gaze. The blue of his eyes clouded with a profound, terrifying regret. The controlled pacing, the atmospheric descriptions, and the tension-filled dialogue had led to this singular, breaking moment. There was a recording, he whispered, the sound barely clearing his throat. One of the members, Dean, he kept a burner phone. He recorded some of the planning sessions. Not the attack, but the hate. The true purpose. It's in a lockbox, under the floorboards of the old Pine Creek hunting cabin. I was supposed to destroy it, but I couldn't. I just couldn't. The admission was a lifeline thrown into a deep sea of his own making. The tape wasn't just evidence against his conspirators. It was his final confession, the full truth about the depth of the organized hatred he had silently sanctioned. The revelation was not a victory for It was a profound, somber tragedy about the human soul and the ease with which it can be turned toward darkness. Olsen had chosen to trade his integrity for a toxic loyalty, and now that currency was worthless. The price of his choice was everything: his career, his freedom, his identity. The door opened, and a uniformed officer entered, the paperwork crisp and final in his hands. The officer didn't look at Olsen. He had become a ghost in his own life. The silence that followed the whispered confession was heavy, a sound that signifies the end of one life and the beginning of an endless moral consequence. Kincaid watched as the cuffs were placed on his wrists, the metallic click echoing the finality of his mistake. She felt no triumph, only the exhausting weight of a compromised justice. She knew the tape would expose the network of hate, and that was the true, necessary justice for Vance. But the story would always remain a damning testament to the moral fragility of those placed in power. Sometimes, one wrong choice can destroy a lifetime. Learn from their story. Choose kindness. Choose life. This was just the beginning. The most mysterious and shocking crime stories are still ahead. Subscribe to Crime Flow Narratives and be among the first to uncover what comes next.